Welcome to our conversation today. Thank you so much for those of you who are joining us, giving up part of the middle of your Thursday to join us for this conversation. We are so excited you are here. So we'd love to introduce ourselves as we get started so you know who we are. I'm Abby Spencer. I've been working here for quite a while and serve as the COO here at Morningstar.
And I'm Leigh Cooper. I serve as the CEO, and Abby and I both started at about the same time back in 2013. We're both the daughters of clients of Morningstar, tour leaders. Both of our fathers did that for many years. So,
Yes.
And Abby's is still going strong.
Still going. So fun fact, Leigh and I were introduced to Morningstar as a traveler through our dad's leading trips. And here we are now. So you never know where a trip may take you. It may lead to future job opportunities in the future.
Yes.
So one thing that has remained unchanged is that the heart of Morningstar has always been committed to providing group travel of biblical significance with an emphasis on high-touch customer service and a desire to see people's faith strengthened and solidified. So even though our tour offerings have expanded to Turkey, Greece, Egypt, the UK, Germany, and Canada, our first love and heartbeat has always been for Israel. So it is a powerful place where you really do see the Bible come to life.
So we would like to invite the founder and current Morningstar Tours board member, Sherry Fitzsimmons, to introduce our speaker today.
It's such a privilege to introduce my dear friend of over 30 years, Samuel Smadja. He and his wife, Susan, started Sar-El a few years before Morningstar, so we have literally grown up together. In that time, they've grown to the largest incoming tour company in Israel, and their commitment to excellence has always matched ours, making it just an ideal partnership. It's interesting as I have watched, but God has been setting the stage and working to provide Samuel an incredibly unique platform. Along with him heading up Sar-El Tours, he is also the regional director of TBN Israel, and he serves as the pastor of the Israeli Messianic Assembly, a very vibrant Messianic congregation in Jerusalem. Samuel has recognized that God has uniquely positioned him for such a time as this. And as you will hear, he has asked God each day to discern how he can serve the people of Israel, both Jew, Gentile, and Arab, to God's glory. So I introduce my very dear friend, Samuel Smadja. Welcome, friend.
Thank you. Thank you, Sherry.
Yeah.
For me, being here is an honor. Sherry and Mike have been family for my kids, family for my wife and I, and it's more than a partnership. And I want to thank them for really standing with Israel for the last 30 years, being there, supporting, and in the good times, in the bad times, Sherry and Mike were always there, and the team at Morningstar. So I just want to thank everybody and thank you for this opportunity to be here and to bring a bit about what I see is going on in Israel.
Yeah, well, we're so honored to have you join with us and share what your experience has been really from the front lines. As we think back over the last 16 months, we would love to know just how have you seen God on display up close, firsthand, really redeeming what the enemy has intended for evil, and instead God transforming that for his glory?
First of all, when we think about the year and a half, the last year and a half, we have to understand that we're in the midst of a spiritual warfare against Israel. Israel is going through the toughest time ever. Yesterday was one of the toughest days in this year and a half, seeing the burial of a mother and two babies who were kidnapped, taken as hostages, and brought back in coffins after 18 months. But as believers, I think we have to understand and where we're standing. I really, really believe that we're living in the midst of the end time. I really believe that what we see is not just a fight against Israel, it's a fight against God's plan. It's a fight against God's roadmap to mankind. As I believe, and I hope you believe, the return of the Jewish people is another stone in the building of the roadmap of salvation, of the plan of salvation for humanity. One of the biggest miracles of our time is the return of the Jewish people. Jewish people came from 103 different nations, and God brought them together, and they're here in the land, and the devil will do everything he can to stop and to, because he doesn't believe it's the end time. He knows it's the end time. That's the difference between us and the devil. He knows it's the end time, and he's going to do everything he can in his power to stop what God has in his beautiful plan for Israel and for the salvation of Israel and salvation of the rest of the world. When we look about the 18 last month, and we see about the hatred against Israel, we can understand. And I always say that when I see the Christian and the people who are with us now watching us, you're here because God planted in you a supernatural love for the people of Israel. And the same way that you have a supernatural love, I believe that there is such a thing which is called a supernatural hate, because you cannot be, comes from the pit of hell, because you cannot be a human being and hate somebody so much without knowing him, without even having a conversation. Let's be honest, most of those Hamas terrorists who crossed the border on the 7th of October, they never met an Israeli, because Israel and Gaza was separated for over 20 years. So what we saw is hatred, but in this midst of the hatred, we saw the faithfulness of God. We saw the protection of God. In this midst of this suffering, we saw how God continued. Guys, you saw on the news all those rockets falling on Israel, and the number of casualty was close to nothing. People will tell you it's the Iron Dome. People will tell you it's the Israeli army or whatever. I can tell you it's the protection of God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Israel who protect his people. The devil will continue to try to do things against Israel every day. Just 2 days ago, they tried to blow up 5 buses. 4 of them got blown, but there was nobody on those buses. It's a miracle of God. We are experiencing miracles after miracles after miracles. And when we look about on this last year and a half, and I started and I said that I believe we're living in the end times. When we look about our region, when we look about the Middle East, we see that the changes in the Middle East is not the same Middle East as 18 months ago. Lebanon has changed. Hezbollah is gone. Syria is gone. We all were afraid from Iran. Yes, we still have to deal with the nuclear power of Iran, but Iran is not a threat anymore. With the change in the White House, we will see the Abraham Accords taking place. So I believe that the changes in the Middle East are happening so quickly, and that's why I believe that we are in the end time. So I really want to use this opportunity to thank you for standing with Israel, to thank you for being such a voice wherever you are for Israel, in your churches, in your pulpits, and all over, and to thank you for your support for the people of Israel and the thing. Another thing that we saw in the last year and a half is the rise of anti-Semitism, which shows us that it's not just a political, territorial issue. And that's why we understand, and as believer, we can understand that it's a spiritual warfare on Israel. We see a rise of anti-Semitism like we didn't see from 1939 before the Holocaust. People all over Australia, New Zealand, places that are so far away from us, Europe, some places in Europe who are turning against Israel, which is unbelievable. And we became the villain trying to protect ourselves. So we see the rise of anti-Semitism, and we know that it's not that they hate the Israelis or the Jews, they hate God. It's a spiritual thing. It's something that is born through the devil trying to stop what's dear to God. And it's a warfare on everything that is important to God.
As you think about, you share these stories of just these miracles that you've really watched up close. Can you share a couple of other stories of hope over the last 16 months of what you've seen that maybe isn't in the news? Because hope doesn't usually sell. It doesn't get clicks or follows or interactions, but a couple of examples of stories of hope that you've seen and experienced.
I think as a pastor, my biggest hope is to see the hunger of the Israeli for a spiritual thing. Let's be honest, the Israelis, especially the secular Israelis, were counting on the strength of the IDF. Israel was very popular as the startup nation, the technology of Israel. And what we saw on the 7th of October, that nothing worked. Nothing worked. And there are many questions which are still not answered. Where was the army? You talk to every Israeli was bragging about the IDF and so on, and suddenly all those things collapsed. All those things did not work. Yes, the IDF took over, but it took 6 to 8 hours till the IDF reacted. And what we see a hunger and a desire to know about God. And I can tell you that the body of Messiah grew. Yes, also the synagogue grew, but the body of Messiah, our congregation, I think during the war grew by at least 20 to 30%. And it's a growth with a lot of questions. And the question from the young people, especially those who are serving in the army, is what does it mean to love your enemy? What does it mean to give your other cheek? What does it mean to seek peace and to chase peace with every price? What's the price of peace? How much? Those are things that we as pastors and leaders need to deal with the young generation. But we see that the younger generation are maturing in God, in the faith, in a way. It's like that. I mean, I cannot explain it, but there is such a growth, a healthy growth spiritually, that's a thing. We saw I mean, you guys at Morning Star know, but for example, the son of our CEO at Sar-El Tours, Uri, his son was in a tank, and he said many times, as soon as we moved, the bomb, the missile fell. As soon as we went, we were hit, but we were saved. You hear again and again of stories of young kids coming home and telling miracles. Many are coming with PTSD. Many are totally messed up because what they saw. But we see stories of miracles and protection. Guys, let's be honest. I mean, I remember the evening when Iran was shooting on Israel. We heard the bombing above our homes. We were sitting in the bomb shelters. We went out and nothing happened. I mean, yes, houses were destroyed, missiles falling here, falling there, but nobody was killed. I mean, people got wounded because they ran to the bomb shelter and they fell out of panic, but it was really the hand of God over these people, over his people. So, yes, we're going through a hard time, but I believe that in the end of it, and we already see it, Israel will be in a much stronger position. I think the Middle East will be a safer place, especially Israel. Israel today is already a way, 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 way safer place than the 6th of October. You guys are watching and, and saying, oh, there's a war in Israel and so on and so on. But Israel today is safer than before of the war. Because let's be honest, Israel did not destroy Gaza because we still have hostages in Gaza. The war in Gaza is still going on because Israel don't want to kill our own hostages who are sitting there in the tunnel, so we are not blowing Gaza. But so it's out of choice that this war is still going. But Israel is much safer. Hezbollah is gone. Think about it. Who would believe that Hezbollah will be destroyed? And what a great opportunity for Lebanon to rebuild their country. And I know for a fact, and I know some of them, there are good Christian people in Lebanon. What an opportunity to build this country who has been suffered from Hezbollah for the last 25 years. So I really believe, and Syria, think about it. Syria is gone. Assad, he was the butcher of the Middle East. He's gone, if somebody would tell me at the 6th of October that there'll be a war, yes, you'll pay a price, but Hezbollah would be gone. In all the scenario that they told us during the war, in all the scenario that they told us during the war, they said that Hezbollah is going to target the electricity company, the nuclear chocolate factory, whatever you want to call it, will destroy in the first 24 hours. They'll destroy all our main sources of life here. Nothing happened. I mean, yes, people died, but it could have been way, way worse. And for that, we can thank God. For that, we, as the body of Messiah, are so thankful. And I believe that you guys had a lot to do in this whole thing. Your prayers gave victory. It reminds me the story in the Bible when Moses had to face the Amalekites. And by the way, we're fighting the same spirit of Amalekites 3,000 years later. And he gathered Aaron, Hur, and Joshua and Caleb. And we know when Aaron, Moses, and Hur were praying, the people down had victory. So guys, I want to thank you for your prayers, but as long as your hands are lifted up, we will continue to see victory here in the Middle East.
I'm glad you brought up prayer. So many of us stateside, I know, and all over the world have been praying for you all over these last months.
Yeah, thank you.
And we want to know, how can we continue to pray? What are the prayer needs now? What practical ways can we encourage and support you all?
Okay. When we talk about prayers, I mean, we all know this verse was used again and again and again and again. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. On every tour, in every Israel conference you go, in everything, you heard this verse, pray for the peace of Israel, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And when we think about the verse, I don't want to teach everybody. There's more qualified teachers than me on this Zoom, but when we read a chapter, when we read a psalm, we have to ask ourselves, who's talking to whom? And who does God command to pray for the peace of Jerusalem? And it's very interesting. There in the same chapter, in verse 4, David is talking to the tribes of God. He says, you, the tribes of God. He's using a term, the tribes of God. And I believe that he's not talking about Menashe, Naphtali, Dan, Asher, all those 12 tribes. I believe he's talking to a group from the nations who believes in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and became the tribes of God. I believe it's a prophetic call for the church to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Now, what does it mean to pray for the peace of Jerusalem? I believe that David did not see the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. He didn't see the... I don't think he was talking... I think he was talking about something which is way, way deeper. I believe, first of all, to pray for the peace of Jerusalem is to pray for the peace between the God of Israel and the people of Israel. So, which means to pray for the salvation of Israel. And then to pray for a physical peace. So I believe, like Isaiah says in chapter 40, comfort my people. You know, what does it mean to comfort the people of Israel? How can we comfort the people of Israel? He says, tell her that her sin was forgiven, that somebody paid double for all her iniquities. Sorry for my English, but Isaiah is prophesying Messiah. And he says, you comfort the people of Israel by telling Zion, telling Israel that there'll be somebody that will pay for all her iniquity. Trust in him. Tell them. So, yes, we have to pray for the salvation of Israel. We have to pray for, by the way, first of all, for the White House, because you guys have a huge role. And without getting into your politics, but we in Israel are very thankful for whoever sits in the White House, because for Israel it could have been terrible if somebody else would be there. But pray for the government of Israel. Pray for Benjamin Netanyahu, who's our prime minister, that God will give him Solomon's wisdom, a supernatural wisdom to know what to do. The tension in Israel is terrible. You know what to do to go continue the war, not to continue the war, the hostages, not hostages, to go to attack Iran, not to go. There's so many things on the line, and I really believe that he needs a supernatural wisdom, and we need to lift this man who is the leader. You know, I believe that God elevates kings and bring down the king, and he's the guy that God chose for this hour. So we need to pray for him. Even if we don't agree, we need to pray that God will speak into his heart, will speak into his wisdom, and give him a supernatural wisdom to know what to do. I want you to pray for all the soldiers. Unfortunately, we had several believers who lost their life in the war. I had one from my congregation who took the train in Jaffa, and a terrorist came and shoot him in his chest. 26 years old. His parents died. There are so many mourning families, and the parents are. The father is a very well-known Israeli doctor in Hadassah Hospital, and he came to me and he said, "Samuel, I don't understand. I don't understand why. I'm afraid to lose my faith." You know, those are very hard trials that people have to go. We have so many wounded and so many kids with PTSD that we will find out after the war. So we have to pray for the wounded. But I really believe that the future, when we look, you know, after the very dark, the sun comes up. So I think we're very, very close to the sunrise. I really believe that we will have a peace agreement with Saudi. I really believe the Abraham Accords, I don't know if everybody knows about the Abraham Accord, but the Abraham Accord are going to be extended. And the Middle East is going to be totally a different, I really believe it's going to be a different neighborhood. The thing that holds everything is the hostages, and Hamas knows that that's the only thing that they can hold, because if they don't have the hostages, they'll be gone, and they'll be gone. I mean, there's no option that they will stay around. Israel will never agree that they will stay around. The White House will never agree that they will stay around, because it's a bad example to the whole crazy region if we will allow them to, after what they did, to stay around and to govern Gaza. And we have to pray also for the kids in Gaza. There is so much hatred. They need a real encounter with God to really to change this thing. It's a supernatural hatred. It can be only a supernatural revelation to change this hatred towards Israel. I don't know. They pray for the body of Messiah, that we will also have wisdom on how to use the time that we live. You know, Esther, tonight we're entering into the month of Hadar. Hadar is the month that the feast of Purim, the feast of Esther, is celebrated. So Esther said that she was born for such a time as this. And if we're here all around in this meeting, we know that God brought us for this time. He chose us for this time, and we have to, all of us in Israel, in America, also in America. I mean, I think your country was divided after the election. We need to see how we can use this time to bring hope, the hope of the Messiah, wherever we are. To shine, to lift up the torch very high and be proud with the message we have.
I think it's such a great reminder, as much as we pray for physical peace or conflict to calm down, ultimately we know and need to pray for the salvation of people, knowing that Jesus is the one that brings ultimate peace. So thank you for
He is the Prince of Peace.
That's right.
And in this time of darkness, we have to hold in the promises of God.
That's right. So as you've already mentioned a few times, there are constant updates coming out of Israel. Something new seems to be happening all of the time. And at the same time, we're also seeing, this move towards people wanting to return and come back to Israel, either for the first time or come back again. So tell us why people should come back. Why should those from the U.S. come back and visit Israel? What has changed? What can they expect? Maybe give some peace of mind from your perspective.
First of all, I think that you have to come back as a family who's going to visit a family. Don't come as a tourist. You will find, I believe that, or I know that Israel has changed so much after the 7th of October. And they hear so much about anti-Semitism. And if you ask today anybody on the streets, who are your friends today? They'll tell you it's the evangelical church. Although they don't really understand what it is, they know very little. I think 95% of Israelis never read the New Testament because it's almost the forbidden book to read, okay? But they know that there is, if in the Holocaust they blame the Christian world for the Holocaust, today they say on the streets of Jerusalem, on the streets of Israel, that our best friends are the evangelical church. So I believe that it is the time to come and to encourage the Israelis to come and to show you love, to come and to hug the people on the streets and tell them that God loves them and that you love them. And why do you love them? Because you love their God. and you love their Messiah. So I think that should be your first priority. Safety. Israel today is probably safer than any big city in the US. We don't have any missiles. Nobody's shooting on us. The capability of shooting on us is almost gone, unless if we attack Iran, and then they'll shoot us for 24 hours, and then that will be ending again. So you'll feel safe in Israel, more safer than you've been when you've been before. And you will see a people which is much more humble, and people who have a lot of Christian, and God might use you to minister in Israel. And another thing is, all those sites of the Holy Lands were neglected for a year and a half. It's funny today, for example, if we have groups coming, solidarity groups and so on, but we have to call the sites to make sure they open. We have to call Capernaum, please, to the father there, please make us do us a favor. We have a group coming. Can you open? So it's time that we see tourists, and seeing tourists on the streets. Let's be honest, tourism is a huge industry in Israel. There are so many people who that's their livelihood. Think about the waiters, the taxi driver, the bus drivers, the guides, the hotelier, the shops, all restaurants. I have a restaurant in the Silver Gallery that is closed for already 18 months. It's unbelievable. So we need you. We need all the help and support we can get.
Well, this time has been so valuable with you and such an encouragement. We just really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And we'd like to take the time now to dig into some questions from some of our participants that they've been wondering. The first one, have all the refugees in northern Israel returned to their homes near Lebanon and Syria?
So not all of them, depending where in the north. We have a hotel in Netanya, so we had 100 rooms of refugees. Today we had 15 rooms leaving. What Israel decided and gave the family the option to choose, especially family with kids, is that the kids will finish the school year wherever they are. So they don't need to change, to uproot them again from one school to another school and so on. So if you have children, the government of Israel will pay you to stay in those hotels till the 30 of June. Or if you're elderly and you don't have the infrastructure and so on, and you choose to stay, they are giving, it's now, you have the possibility to go back to the north because it's safe. But the government of Israel understand that it's very hard to do those change so quickly. But the north is open. You can drive in the north. You can drive in the north and see and visit. And by the way, I just came back from the north yesterday, and it's all green and beautiful.
The most beautiful time to be in Israel is right
Yeah.
now. My favorite time to be there.
Yes.
We have another question. Is it possible to visit Samuel's church or another Messianic church while we're on tour?
I'll tell you, because the Messianic congregations are not so big, if you come with 40 people, we have no place for the Israelis. So if you're a pastor or a leader and you want to come 2, 3, 4 people, you're more than welcome. You can also see us online, but it's in Hebrew, so you better brush up your Hebrew. But what we can do when you have a group, we can always bring a local Messianic pastor or, sorry, to share with the group, also an Arab Christian to share with the group. By the way, we have a very good relationship with the Arab Christians, and we're very united in this time. Oh, sorry.
I will say we've had several groups that will do that, have a local,
Something.
no, you're good. Have a local pastor come, or someone that's working in ministry, maybe as a tent maker using biblical language. But just the feedback from that is so much encouragement from groups that go and see what God is doing on the ground, how worship is different in Israel, how congregations meet, or just the structure of church. And for those of you that have traveled internationally anywhere, I think it's part of the beauty of the global church is seeing how God is at work across cultures and different understandings to meet his people where they are in the cultural context in which they live. And so it's a beautiful way to partner with and hear more of how God is working in local Messianic congregations.
Thank you.
At the hotel or wherever it may work, for them to hear more of what's happening real time.
Yeah. We can also organize worship groups and to come and sing, whatever you guys are wanting.
Sure. Great.
Okay, next question. What does Samuel mean by extend the Abraham Accords? When do they expire? Or if extended, what does that mean?
Okay, in the Abraham Accord is an agreement, a peace agreement between Israel, Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, and there was another country that I forget. Extended to is more countries will come under the same treaty with Israel. And the first one, and the most important one, would be Saudi Arabia. If Saudi Arabia comes in, Indonesia will come in, and we're going to see the moderate Sunni countries are going to join to a peace agreement that will change the Middle East.
Wow, that's amazing. Is there an expiration for those or a date when they would have to be extended?
No, it's
Okay.
a peace agreement.
Okay.
It's like a peace agreement, but it wasn't really, it was mainly, I think the White House, Trump and Kushner, his a son-in-law, did an agreement between Israel and it's like a peace agreement, but was more based on the common thing and less based on what we disagree.
Sure.
And they allowed the business world to work it out together. So, for example, now we have 4 flights to Dubai a day, which is unbelievable. The only foreign airline that didn't stop flying to Israel during the war was Air Dubai. And just 5 years ago, they were our enemies. Lufthansa stopped, United stopped, but Air Dubai continue flying to Israel. Who would believe that? So if Saudi Arabia will come in, that will be a big change. And I know that Israel with the White House, that's the next goal. So that when we talk about extending to more countries to join.
Understood. Great.
Next question. Would you consider recording a video encouraging American Christians to come back or for the first time to Jerusalem? This could be powerful.
It will be more than honor.
Okay. Well, we can certainly ask you to do that for us, and then we can get those to the folks that it would pertain to.
Yeah, will be
Very
more than
generous of you. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Samuel, again, thank you for your time. It's such an honor to hear from you, to just have time to hear what you are experiencing. It's an encouragement to hear how God is moving in the hearts of people to draw them to himself for the first time. Just hearing about your congregation experiencing such growth and and the result of them asking hard questions and really
Mhm.
wrestling with their faith is just powerful. So thank you to those of you who have joined us as well. Go ahead. Sorry.
Now, I was trying to say wrestling can sound negative, but
Sure.
it's wrestling in the good way.
Right.
Like Jacob wrestled with the angel of the Lord.
That's right.
It's wrestling in the good, positive way,
Yes.
which allows them to grow in a deeper relationship with God.
Yeah. Beautiful. It just makes me think of the early church too, where, you know, the church grew because of the persecution of the believers.
Mhm.
And it sounds like you are seeing that firsthand, that in
Yes.
your darkest times, God is growing his family because he is not finished with that. So
Mm.
thank you. We are here as Morning Star to serve you as you prepare to travel, as you pray for Israel. If we can be of service in any way, we would certainly be honored to do that. As we close, I'm just reminded of the words that Jesus spoke through John's writings, where he said, you know, I've told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In
Mhm.
this world, you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. So
Amen.
leave encouraged. Jesus has overcome. We know the ending. So
Mhm.
let that be your anchor today as we live life in obedience to the Savior that we love. So
Thank you
thank you
so
so
much,
much.
Samuel. We appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much, and shalom to all from Jerusalem. And thank you for your prayers.
Thank you. It's an honor.
And see you in Jerusalem.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Bye-bye.
Amen. Shalom.